Welcome back to the channel, guys. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down how we're generating this brand over $100,000 a month directly through Facebook ads. This is, again, just looking at a 30-day period right now, over the last 30 days from January 28th to about the end of February. So generally February as a whole. Few things I want to look at before we dive into the ad account. So as you can see here, the brand has generated $129,000 in revenue, 18% increase in sales from the previous month, slowly scaling this brand. Like I said, hopefully aiming to generate upwards of $200,000 next month in revenue from paid ads. The average order value for this brand is $200. They're selling a camera bag, or generally like camera bags and camera accessories, and they have a 1.48% conversion rate, which is something that we're going to be focusing on to improve this brand's revenue and help them scale over the next little bit. But in today's video, we're going to be walking through specifically the Facebook ad account and how we're generating them over $100,000 a month. So before we dive in, as always, all the links are in the description if you want to work with us on the agency side. We specialize in paid advertising, email and SMS marketing, conversion optimization, and user-generated content. Or if you want access to myself, one-on-one coaching, and access to all of our agency SOPs, we have an inner circle, which you can find in the description as well. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the ad account. So you can see right away, over the last 30 days, we've spent just under just over $27,000 in ad spend to generate just over $100,000 in revenue, a $59 cost per acquisition with a $200 product. Now, how are we doing this? That's exactly what we're going to review. If I look at, again, we're kind of spending around close to $1,000 a day currently, right? We're spending around $880 a day, probably going to be ramping this up fairly quickly. We're in the midst of getting a creative refresh. As you can see, the click-through rate on the account is not terrible, right? It's like 3.5% over these last 30 days, but the account has definitely started to slow down. So as you can see, the decrease over the last 7 days, and this is one of the numbers in terms of one of the KPIs that we look at to determine the success of the actual creatives on the platform. Now we have a ton of different campaigns here. I'm going to break them all down. I'm going to walk you through them individually, what they're all being used for, and what we're differentiating between them. So if I go ahead and sort by amount spent and I review over the last 30 days, even if I look at maximum, this account has just spent over $100,000 in revenue. We've made much more than that, over $139,000 in a single campaign. But for the sake of this video, again, we're going to be reviewing the last 30 days, how we helped this brand generate over $100,000. So the number one spending campaign was a prospecting ABO, which is our top of funnel campaign. I'm going to walk you guys through that momentarily. That spent $12,000. Let's go ahead and open that up. If you open this up, you'll notice we basically just are segmenting things by very broad targeting and then a few simple interest-based targeting. And then we did a couple of tests here on a 1-day click on a broad targeting just to see the difference. And then again, like I said, we're generating a few different variations of interest targeting. So you can see there's, like, for example, we're targeting cameras and photography. We're targeting photography as a whole, and then we're just targeting broad targeting here. And as always, within each of these ad sets, at most, we probably have 2 to 4 different creatives per ad set. Anything more than that, you can see there's about 3 ads per ad set. Looks like this one, the broad 1-day click, we threw everything in here for a test. But the reason we generally do not do this, as you can see, the creatives were, the split in ad spend was split dramatically. This one creative spent $1,200, this spent $19, right? And so we don't know necessarily if this creative was a loser per se, and that's why we like to keep the ads inside of an ad set at most 4 to 5 at the absolute most. Really, we're aiming for anywhere between 3 to 4 creatives per ad set to allow Facebook to allocate that budget properly. And again, this is where we're going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Again, if you're sorting by amount by spend, we're using an ABO here. That way we can control the ad set budget on what we're seeing perform the best. And we're just allocating $50 a day, $50 a day, $75 a day, making sure, again, we're maintaining and we're hitting within our KPI, which is around a $60 cost per acquisition. A little bit high this month, but that's okay, right? Because this is not necessarily our loss leader campaign, but this is our top of funnel campaign injecting the entire funnel. So we're okay to have this a little bit of a higher cost per acquisition, even though it has spent the most, right? Again, we're looking at the overall accounts results with a $50, $59 cost per acquisition. The second highest spending ad campaign is a prospecting DCT ABO. So again, a pretty much exact same campaign here, same targeting, but pretty much generally broad. And then we're just utilizing a dynamic creative test. So you'll see basically just like one creative in here, even though there's multiple variations of video creative, photo creative, and different ad copy being tested on each of these ad sets, just again, being targeted very broad. That way we can allow Facebook to kind of figure out, again, what is the best performing creative. Once we have a winning creative from the DCT, we move this over to the ABO and then begin slowly scaling. And then over the last 30 days, we've actually just launched a cost cap campaign as a test. It's not performing great at the moment, to 2.15x return on ad spend. Again, in here, we're just doing broad cost cap testing the bids, or rather the cap, $80, $90, $92, $98, $100, seeing what's performing the best. So far, it looks like our $90 bid is way outperforming everything else. So we'll slowly start to scale the spend there. Again, that's an ABO, so that allows us to control that spend. The next thing is our remarketing CBO. So inside of here, this is where we're just doing our regular remarketing for all website audiences. So view content, add to cart, initiate checkout, website visitors, website audiences as a whole. We're targeting those individual ad sets. Again, nothing more than, again, probably you can see there's quite a few different creatives in here. They're off, so we're actually testing like 4 creatives at the moment, which is kind of where we like it to be. And that's kind of, we have the account structured. Inside of the re-engagement campaign, this is just social media audiences, a dynamic creative test, and then individually testing our Instagram audiences and our Facebook audiences. And you can see overall, again, because we're not necessarily looking at, and then finally we have a DPA campaign here, which is just targeting completely broad, because this brand has so many different accessories, so many different SKUs. We're using their catalog ads to test quite frequently. And you can see the frequency is quite high. We're okay with that, right? Especially with a high AOV brand, the frequency needs to be within that, I would say 5 to 10x range, because anything less than that, unfortunately, the conversion rate is just going to be so low, because there is such a time period here and consideration window when it comes to making the sale. And so overall, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is just a simple behind the scenes of an account on how we generated over $100,000 in revenue for this brand in 30 days. So a very large percentage of sales coming directly through our paid traffic as a whole. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, like I said, if you're interested in working with us, all the links are in the description. Please drop a like, subscribe, share this video with someone who would find it interesting. It really does help with the algorithm. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I will see you in the next video.